Guiding Light,
Mm.
where did the title for this track come from? Because it evokes so many images.
Well, it came from the idea of something, a power source, a light source, a guiding light, watching over, leading us to a place of comfort. And the track is intended to be comforting and a source of solace, and respite and peace and calm. I think in the last, I guess in the last 2 years, and most recently, I've been aware of, or actually before that, been aware of how many people have struggled with their mental health through this period, and just finding stability and finding the strength to fight on, whether that be, for personal reasons or economic anxieties about, job security and all that sort of stuff. I, lost one of my members, the members of my family in this period as well. A young man who, and in some of these moments, it's very difficult to find words to put to that, particularly, when people need words of comfort. And I wanted to write a piece of music that that did that. So that's where Guiding Light came from.
Nice. I mean, to me, it reminded me of being in church, like a hymn.
Yeah, there are so many. There's quite a few playgles in there for the musos, cadences, and there is a sense of that kind of plaintive, almost English, almost Vaughan Williamsy, but then fused with a kind of gospel sensibility as well, and it's where those two worlds collide. And again, this was born out of improvisation. I have, myriads of voice memos on my phone. I think this was called Ditty, this song, originally, and but it was always going to be that piece that communicated that sense of comfort and solace. Yeah.
It's also, I believe, the only track on the album that's solo piano without any arrangement or embellishment. Is this intentional? Like, what was your thought process when you were arranging this for just solo piano compared to the rest of the album that's quite got like strings and guitars and...
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Context is everything, and often I remember when in one of my previous lives talking to a student about context in terms of Beethoven's dynamics, and just how pioneering he was in terms of the use of dynamic, particularly in the extremes of dynamic. And in the context of this album, I suppose it's quite a radical moment, because it literally is. There's nothing else other than, particularly on an album where you've got, superstar songstress and symphony orchestras and programming, just to have these pared down moments, or this moment, really feels quite stark and bracing, and I would say lonely, except I don't feel that it's bleak. That certainly wasn't the intention, but it certainly feels whole, and it's certainly not wanting for anything, but it has a very, very different sensibility and feel, most certainly.
Absolutely. And the video as well is very pared back. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's done like on the beach, and there's you and our actress. What's the vision behind that music video?
So the vision was really just to impart this message of you are not alone, and there is always hope. We see a young lady standing on the beach, bereft and wrapped in her emotions, and clearly there has been a traumatic event of some kind, and she's looking out to sea. And we see her go through the whole gamut of emotions as the wind and the rain and the sea lashes in quite brutal conditions. And then, but we start to see these footsteps in the sand, which appear with no one around. And I play for the briefest of moments in the video. And we suddenly start to see the sort of alchemy at work as just in the moment where she feels she's alone, she's being lifted. And she's able then to derive power and strength from that moment. And at the end, she elevates, and we see the footprints around her, and she realizes that she was never alone. And it's just those moments which I think are really, really key and important. And it's just something that I wanted to write on the album.